Welcome to episode 17 of Motivating Mondays, a weekly podcast and YouTube series dedicated to help Canadian job developers and other employer engagement professionals develop the tools, resources, and expertise and network to excel in achieving sustainable employment outcomes for their clients or students. My name is Christian St. Cyr, National Director of the Canadian Job Development Network, and today we're talking about the powerful role follow-up plays in employer engagement and how employers can not only trust you, but seek out your insights and support. Once you've reached out to most employers, developed your pitching skills, reinforced your reputation as a recruitment problem solver, you are left with the consistent professional practice of follow-up. In the first 4 weeks of this 6-week series on employer engagement, we've built the machine, the practices and approaches to engage employers. Now you've built the machine, you're in the community. What do you do that's going to make employers want to work with you? Can you keep a secret? What employers say they want has very little bearing on what they need or what they choose to do. But it's really important that we not tell them that. What they want is the perfect employee with amazing experience who will work for bare minimum, not complain, and always perform. What they end up hiring, time and time again, is someone somewhere in the middle with some good experience, many of the qualities the employer is looking for, but if they're underpaid or mistreated or sunk into a poor work environment, they always have their eye on the job postings. This is not to say if they hire our clients or students that everything's going to work out terrific. Sometimes they'll hire our clients and they will be pleasantly surprised by someone who works out great. Other times, it will turn out to be a disaster and the job opportunity will turn out very badly. Mostly, we're somewhere in between. The irony is that through traditional recruitment, most employees also turn out to be somewhere in between. The point is, the employer has some predetermined magical criteria that they cling to with the hopes of getting that perfect candidate. Fortunately, we don't represent perfect candidates. We represent real people who need some kind of support. Otherwise, we wouldn't be working with them in the first place. Nevertheless, if these criteria were so important, why would it not drive all hiring? But what we have instead is that 70 to 80% of the time, employers are hiring through the hidden job market. Oh, sure, they say, I have these criteria, but hey, if Joe says this person's okay, that's good enough for me. Who is Joe? Apparently, Joe is someone the employer knows well enough to shave away all sorts of selection criteria and give that person a chance anyway. Employers may cling to these selection criteria, but they know better than anyone else that not everyone works out. In fact, it's most likely that someone's not going to work out. So if a third party is willing to vouch for the candidate, they're going to go with that person. When we talked about branding, we talked about getting employers to trust you. But what does that look like? Well, have you ever heard of Club 33? My guess is that there isn't anyone here who is a member of Club 33. Why? Because it's a super exclusive members-only club in Disneyland. It started in 1967 because Walt Disney had been pressured by corporations in the park to create a hospitality suite, one that served alcohol and where they could conduct business. The 33 refers to the original 33 corporate sponsors of Disneyland back in 1955. Now, if you go to Disneyland, you won't see a sign or a window for Club 33, just a discreet door with the number 33 above it. It's near the Pirates of the Caribbean in New Orleans Square. It's extremely exclusive. According to the Los Angeles Times, membership in Club 33 can cost as much as $50,000 with an annual fee of $15,000 per year. The application process is highly secretive, but the total membership is very low, and it can take a dozen or more years to secure a spot, if at all. Prospective members are highly screened, with preference going to famous or well-connected members. Celebrities who currently belong to Club 33 include Tom Hanks, Christina Aguilera, and Elton John. So, what is so special about this club? Well, it serves alcohol in Disneyland, which up until the opening of Galaxy's Edge wasn't something that was available anywhere. It's also highly themed. Walt Disney started the project before he died and wanted the club to be an extremely themed space. It also provides park passes for the member and their immediate family, as well as some free passes throughout the year. Still, this seems like a lot of money to pay to hang out in a restaurant and not go on any rides, and the food isn't even free. Recently, I heard an interview with someone who had been invited by a member of Club 33 to join them for lunch. In this interview, he described the amazing food and ambiance, but what struck him the most was the unparalleled level of customer service. Guest after guest would come in and the staff would engage in conversation with them. The staff would ask about their family and their work and their projects. They were really well informed and were talking with the guests as though they were good friends. The members would also ask the staff about their lives and what was going on in their world. It's like the song says, it's a place where everybody knows your name. What strikes me most about this story is it isn't transactional. If it's not to say that there isn't commerce going on. Disney is making a mint off of this. But if it isn't genuine, it sure appears to be. Before I share with you a list of follow-up activities you can undertake with local employers, I want you to believe that effective job development also shouldn't feel transactional. This is our opportunity to take a genuine interest in local employers. An employer is naturally going to put a job developer at arm's length, just as they would put a salesperson at an arm's length. The person wants me to hire their client or sell me a product, so I can't entirely trust what they're saying. So I'm going to double down on that due diligence process. Where are those criteria that I was looking for in a potential job candidate? Oh, to have the credibility of Joe. But remember, Joe doesn't want anything. It just so happens that he knows someone who could be a great employee. I don't need to be suspicious of Joe's motivations. Now, what we're talking about is prospecting. And you know who the employers are. We've talked about pitching. You know how to best present your clients. Maybe it's worked, maybe it hasn't worked. But what does follow-up look like? Follow-up is important for 3 reasons. It helps improve conversion rates, it builds trust and rapport, and it demonstrates value. So let's talk about those 3 specifically. What about conversion rate? If I go and visit 10 employers, and those 10 visits result in one employer hiring a client of mine, this is a 10% conversion rate. That means I need to in order to find 20 people jobs, I need to visit 200 employers. But if through consistent follow-up, 3 of those original 10 employers hire my clients, I've now developed a 30% conversion rate, and I would only need to visit less than 70 employers to help my 20 people find employment. Consistent, repeated follow-up builds conversion through increased awareness. The second area, trust and rapport. Yes, an employer is going to keep you at an arm's length when they first meet you because there is an improper power balance. You want them to hire your client, and they're going to be suspicious of your motivations. Utilizing the Disney example, this is an opportunity to learn more about their organization, their hiring process, their challenges, and their strengths. This is why we spent an entire week of our 6-week series talking about discovery. Early in the relationship, we want to ask questions, not pitch clients. It's absolutely critical at this phase to keep detailed notes. When you meet an employer for the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th time, you want to be able to draw on the information that you've learned about in previous visits to ask them about projects that they're working on, problems they need to overcome, and new things that they're trying. The more you demonstrate interest in what the employer is doing, the more you'll build trust and rapport. And then the last area is demonstrating value. Job developers and other employer engagement professionals are not order takers or client placers. We're not here to gather job postings to share with job seekers and to get clients to apply for jobs. Quite frankly, technology can do that far better than you can anyway. Our job is to help an employer see the value of an individual, if not inclusive hiring overall. We're here to share the experiences of other employers to differentiate the contribution our clients can make and as a professional resource once clients have been placed. If you want to know what you can do where AI is a poor substitute, it's all of those areas. If we want job development to continue to exist as an occupation 10 years from now, which I'm absolutely certain it will, we need to focus on these areas that draw on qualities such as creativity, empathy, problem solving, discernment, storytelling, and responding intentionally. So what is our framework for follow-up? How to go about follow-up is less important than that you do it. It's easy to walk away from an employer rebuff and write them off completely. Let's focus on the employers in town who are going to be more receptive. It's true that most of your attention should be focused on your most engaged employers, but it's not to say that great employers can't be developed over time. Remember, when you first meet them, employers are guarded and keeping you at a distance. The following is a breakdown of how you might want to conduct follow-up after that first meeting. First area, timing. It's recommended within sales, and I'm going to pass it along here as well, to follow up within 24 to 48 hours of initial contact to be mindful of the appropriate time for subsequent interactions. Respect the employer's time. Multiple channels. Using a combination of emails and phone calls and even social media to reach prospects in a way that they prefer. This is the sort of information you can gather and tailor over time. I met a salesperson this last weekend, and all he uses is WhatsApp. He doesn't have business cards. He just gets everybody to follow him and connect with him on WhatsApp. Personalization. Tailor your follow-up messages to the employer's specific needs and interests, referencing previous conversations and addressing these challenges. Value-driven. Ensure each follow-up provides something of value, such as relevant information, resources, or exclusive offers. Be persistent, but not pushy. Find the balance between staying in touch and not overwhelming the employer. So much of this can be recognized in their disposition when they meet you. Finally, track your follow-ups. Use a CRM or other employer tracking system to track your interactions and ensure you're following up consistently. I can conclude this by saying follow these strategies and you'll achieve increased employment numbers and longer lasting employment outcomes. While I believe this is true, it overlooks a fundamental truth. If we want to simply pursue employer relationships to place clients, it's transactional and will to some degree come across as such. Instead, I would suggest you approach job development with curiosity, one of those things that AI isn't really very good at. Be curious about employers, their challenges, and how they do business. Commit what they share to memory and let that shape your future conversations with those employers and others. In my family, we always say, communicate with 2 ears and 1 mouth in that order. If you take the time to get to know local employers, the job opportunities will come on their own. By the way, we have been amazed by our early registration for developing a comprehensive approach to job development. This is the only time we're going to be offering it in 2025, and we have 1 session for each time zone, September 8th through 12th. We've had hundreds of job developers and other employer engagement professionals take this training, but for a limited time, everyone who registers is going to get a 35% discount on registration. To learn more or to register, just visit jobdevelopment.org/pro-D, or just click on the Pro-D tab at jobdevelopment.org. I've also spent the last week organizing sponsors for specific communities for the National Networking Day for Job Developers. This is taking place on September 19th. If there isn't one happening in your town, I would suggest organizing one. Sponsorship is free, and it looks great to both funders and the community at large, and you can learn more by going to jobdevelopment.org/sponsors. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Please click our like or subscribe button in whatever platform you're viewing or hearing this on. Check us out on your podcast platforms if you're a regular follower of podcasts. We'd also like it if you could rate or review this podcast. Now, we do these sessions live and for free every Monday morning with job developers from across Canada, and it would be so great if you could join us on a regular basis. Just go to jobdevelopment.org to learn more. If you have any questions, send me an email at info@jobdevelopment.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I hope you have an amazing week.